Hello, everyone. This is the Cyber Pro podcast. Industry leaders share their insights. It's a short podcast because hackers never sleep, but we're excited today. We have some wonderful diversity in the room with me, and I'm excited to chat with you. Trenelle, tell us who you are and why you're awesome.
Awesome, Rick. Thanks for having me. I'm Trenelle Pierce, Director of Business Development here with cytellix Corporation. Excited to be with you guys today.
I want to start with kind of a tough educational question, but what do you feel are some of the most critical aspects of a robust cybersecurity strategy that just encircles most organizations?
Yeah, great question there, Rick. And honestly, I think you'll get many different answers from many different people. But I would say from my standpoint, just being in this space for 8+ years now, it's so important for you to really understand where your important information is stored. I think a lot of times we go into business and we think that, we have all our ducks in a row, and that sounds great. You're rolling, you're making money, but do you even know where the important stuff is? Do you know where your client data is? Do you know where your finance data is? Do you know where that IP that you work so hard for, right, to go into business to start and use, where is that stuff being stored? So I always say the initial part is having an assessment. That's important, just a baseline. And assessments, they get very old very quickly, right? Because it's just a point in time. And that's why it's so important to have an ongoing monitoring, scanning of your systems, of your network, because the threats today are not going to be the threats tomorrow. If it was that easy, we will all be doing it right? So it's so important to just have that ongoing awareness and also having a game plan of how you address risk in a timely manner, because remediation time matters when it comes to threats. And you don't want things hanging around in your environment longer than they should be.
I love it. And I like that you started with data first. I think a lot of people, we used to talk about, oh, it's the user's fault, and it still probably is, but but it's really how the user's accessing that data. And I think people forget that the data breach is more concerning than just the attack itself.
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit. I'm curious what you guys are seeing, but are there any emerging technologies or trends or approaches that you're just super excited about in the industry?
Yeah, I think everyone is hearing the new acronym. I mean, there's so many of them in cybersecurity, but the whole XDR, so it stands for Extended Detection and Response. So Extended Detection and Response, again, another acronym to add to you guys, your vocabulary there. But I'm happy that we're finally starting to talk about that, because again, everyone has been stuck on get an assessment, but then what, right? It's the ongoing monitoring, the ongoing awareness of what endpoints are doing and what they should and should not be doing, but the visibility of that stuff, right? It's so important to bring all these different data points together to really give people a full view of what the cybersecurity risks really are in truth. So I'm liking that. I'm happy it's finally become a thing. Who knows, by next year, probably be a newer thing coming out, but I'm liking that we're finally starting to combine the assessment with the XDR piece of it to really give a complete picture.
I mean, we're getting close to Gen Z coming into the workforce. Maybe it'll be like ZDR or something. Who knows? So let's take that a little further then and look at the opposite of it. What are some misconceptions about cybersecurity that you often encounter when you're talking to your customers?
Yeah, great question. Because we work with clients, I mean, my smallest client has 3 employees. My largest is a couple thousand employees and everything in between. A lot of the challenge that I have with these conversations around, of course, cost. Everyone thinks cyber costs so much money. The need for it. I'm a small company and no one wants my stuff. We always hear that. And then they're the ones that may come back very quickly and say, actually, JK, we did have an incident and we need some help. And then we have people that say, that it's not on their roadmap right now because they're looking at whether it's enhancing their business continuity or they're looking at other efficiencies in business. They're not thinking cyber is one of these costs of doing business. They kind of put it in a jar of its own or in a core of its own when it really is an integral part of doing business these days. So those are some of the things that I deal with on a frequent basis when dealing with customers of all sizes, honestly.
What do you think are the biggest differences between that kind of SMB and that mid-market small enterprise?
Not much. Look at the news. When you see the hacks and breaches, they're very similar in capacity, right? And what's happening. The truth about it is the large companies just have more eyes and more budget to throw at the problem, and then smaller companies do. But honestly, everyone's missing the mark on just the fundamentals about cybersecurity, about just the basic things of awareness, of monitoring, of having a project plan, having people assigned to fix these things as a project. But both groups are honestly missing the mark on a lot of ways when it comes to cybersecurity.
I love it. This has been super insightful, super smooth. I love it. But here's the fun question for you, the final question, and I'm excited to see where you go with this. What's your favorite piece of retro technology that makes you smile?
Oh, here's a fun one. I actually have it here. You probably may not be able to see it, but my iPod, it's so
I
cool.
love it.
My sister got this for me when I graduated college, I guess. I don't want to age myself, but she did like a indentation on the back of it. It says Mrs. Future CEO. I had never thought about anything like that. But this is kind of my funnest one. I had a lot of just good jams on here. He's a kid around with me to always stay charged. And I keep it on my desk to remind me about how things are always constantly changing. And that's the only constant in life. And make sure you're always going along with the change. Because if not, you'll be left behind.
Man, I love it. I remember the days where you could like download all that music and throw it on there and walk away, but now it's all streaming.
I love it.
Trenelle, thank you so much for being on the Cyber Pro podcast.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you for tuning into the Cyber Pro podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on new podcasts and all of our cool bonus content.